Nearly half of Atlanta home listings last year needed a price cut before they sold. And the sellers who overpriced walked away with significantly less than their neighbors who priced just right. The Atlanta housing market is shifting, and the old playbook is expensive. I've been selling in town Atlanta for over 28 years, and today I'll walk you through the 5 most important things that have changed. Inventory is rising. First, I need to give you a little bit of context. 3 or 4 years ago, buying a home in Atlanta went like this. You found a place you liked, and before you could schedule a showing, it had 3 offers. You had less than 24 hours to decide. The inspection was for informational purposes, and you had no negotiation room. Whatever the seller wanted, you gave it, or you lost it and started over. That was the frenzy. And what made it possible was a supply so tight it barely registered. The greater Atlanta metro ended 2021 with around 16,000 active listings and under a month of supply. Sellers were getting more than 100% of their original asking price on average. Buyers had almost no room to think, let alone negotiate. That kind of market needed rare conditions, and those conditions are gone. As of early this year, Metro Atlanta is sitting at roughly 4 months of supply across the 11-county metro with more than 25,000 active listings. Atlanta's inventory has been ranking among the top markets nationally for total listings. We didn't drift from under 1 month of supply to 4 months. That is a different market. When supply moves like that, everything about how negotiations work changes. A buyer today can schedule a second showing, compare options, and walk away from a home that doesn't feel right without losing their only shot. And when buyers have that kind of breathing room, they negotiate harder. The rate environment made all of this sharper, and we're getting into that in a few minutes because it explains why buyer behavior changed so much. I want to be clear though, this market is not in free fall. Demand exists. Thousands of homes are still selling every month. What's changed is the context around those transactions. The panic pressure is gone. And Georgia MLS described that shift in April 2026 as a structural change in buyer behavior. Structural, not seasonal or temporary. So the market is recalibrating after years of rare conditions, and the most visible place that shows up is in how long homes are sitting before they sell. Days on market are increasing. There's a number in this market that sellers don't always take seriously until it's too late. It's time on market. That's because how long a home sits tells buyers something about that house, and once that idea gets in their head, it's hard to walk it back. The average home in Atlanta is spending around 40 days on the market right now, depending on the submarket and the data source. During the 2021 frenzy, the statewide average was closer to a month. In parts of the city, homes were gone in just days, sometimes hours. So the average home has gone from roughly 3 weeks to roughly 2 months. Georgia Realtors, the agency Atlanta's FMLS data, and Redfin's city-level numbers are all pointing in the same direction. Homes are sitting longer. And that's a big deal because time changes how buyers see a listing. When a home has been sitting for 40 or 60 days, buyers start asking what's wrong with it. That stigma builds, and at that point, the fix is usually a price reduction that puts you behind where you would have been if you had priced it right from day one. Nearly half of the new listings across the metro area in Q3 2025 needed a price cut before going under contract. Almost as many didn't sell at all. Sellers who started too high and had to chase the market ended up sitting much longer than neighbors who priced correctly from the start. And they ended up selling for substantially less. On a home in the mid-400s, that gap can easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars. Hold on to that, because when we get to the price tiers in a minute, you'll see why the monthly payment math is splitting this market in such a clear way. Now, Georgia Realtors data also shows sellers are getting about 95% of their original list price on average. That's down from the full price environment we had during the frenzy. But that gap is where the negotiation negotiating room lives now. And buyers know it. The sellers who price correctly are still moving their homes in a matter of weeks. What I mean is that good pricing still gets rewarded. Meanwhile, bad pricing is just a lot more expensive now. And the reason buyers slowed down, got more selective, and started negotiating harder comes back to the monthly payment. We'll get into that next. But first, a quick note. If you're relocating to Atlanta and trying to get a real read on the market before you start your search, or if you're already here and thinking about selling and want to know what your specific neighborhood and price point look like, my contact info is in the description below. Now, back to the data. Interest rates changed the math. The number that changed buyer behavior in this market shows up on the first page of a loan estimate. And for a lot of buyers, it changed what they were willing to commit to more than any price movement did. Think about what it felt like to shop for a home in Atlanta when rates were low. A buyer with a solid income could look at homes in the mid-400s, and the monthly payment felt like something they could build a life around. That's a big part of why the frenzy happened. Rates that low brought buyers into the market who had been waiting on the sidelines for years. The 30-year fixed rate hit an all-time low of 2.65% in January 2021. That was the lowest number in Freddie Mac's survey going back to 1971. It was a once-in-a-generation number, and it pushed this market in a way that wasn't going to last once rates moved. As of late May 2026, that same 30-year fixed rate is sitting around 6.5%. Take a home priced close to the current metro median. Call it somewhere in the low to mid 400s. At a pandemic-era rate of about 3%, the principal on interest on that loan runs about $1,400 a month. At today's rate of about 6.5%, that same loan runs closer to $2,100 a month. That's about $700 more every month, around $8,400 more per year, in the same house and the same neighborhood. And that difference is what shifted buyers from urgency to caution. Industry analysis has consistently shown that moving from historically low rates to where we are today adds hundreds of dollars a month to a typical payment, and it prices millions of households out of the market at the same home price. Atlanta felt that. Buyers got more selective, qualified for less, or asked for more because the payment math demanded it. Oh, and the builder incentive part coming up in a bit is directly connected to this. So, builders figured out that if they can buy down the rate, they can solve the payment problem. And that changes what buyers expect from resale sellers too. Georgia Realtors Association captured it well in their 2025 annual report. The rate environment, combined with rising supply, has given buyers more options and reduced the sense of urgency that characterized the post-pandemic market, while sellers have rediscovered the importance of strategic pricing. There's a flip side for buyers, though. Higher rates have created real negotiating leverage. Sellers are far more willing to offer closing cost help, seller-paid rate buydowns, and repair credits than they were during the frenzy. A buyer who negotiates around lowering the monthly payment instead of only pushing down the list price can get to a much better outcome. So the leverage has changed, and knowing how to use it can make a real difference. Now, how much leverage a buyer has depends almost entirely on where they're shopping in the price range. And the difference across Atlanta submarkets right now is striking. The market is splitting by price point. The next time you read an Atlanta housing headline, I want you to ask one question before you apply it to your own situation. Which Atlanta are we talking about? Because the data is showing multiple markets that may be only 15 minutes apart, and they're not behaving the same way. Buckhead's 30305 zip code saw median prices fall about 5% year over year through early this year, with homes averaging around 70 days on market. That's significantly longer than the year before. In-town Atlanta homes are averaging well over 30 days on market, meaningfully more than the year before. East Atlanta's median dropped nearly 9%, with homes sitting notably longer than they were. So these are real slowdowns at the higher end and in some urban markets. Now look at what's going on a few miles away. Northeast Atlanta showed prices up meaningfully year over year, with homes moving in well under 90 days. Marietta sellers were still getting nearly 99% of their asking price as recently as early 2026. Brookhaven single-family homes are sitting at under 3 months of supply, which is still seller's market territory, with homes moving in roughly a month or so. What's driving the split is the price tier. The higher the price, the more listings are competing for a smaller group of qualified buyers. And that gives those buyers more room to take their time, compare carefully, and negotiate harder. At the entry level in tighter submarkets, competition is still real and speed still counts. At the higher end, buyers have more options and more patience than they've had in years. For buyers, knowing your tier means knowing your leverage. If you're shopping in the mid to upper range in a slower submarket, you have room. Don't let anyone rush you. If you're shopping at the entry level in a tight suburb, the market may feel closer to what it was a couple of years ago than the headlines suggest. For sellers, a well-priced home in the right entry-level submarket can still move in weeks. At the higher end, buyers have real alternatives and real patience, and they'll walk away from a home that isn't priced or presented to compete. Preparation becomes more important as the price goes up. And there's one more layer to this that most sellers aren't fully accounting for. That competitor is not on the same MLS, doesn't need a showing, and comes with a financial package that's changing what buyers expect from every transaction. New construction is offering incentives. When you list a home here today, you're not just competing against the house down the street. In a meaningful number of markets, especially outer suburbs and areas where builders are active, you're competing against a builder. And that builder can hand a buyer a below market rate, tens of thousands of dollars in closing cost help, a brand new home, and a move-in date they can count on. That is the competition, and it's playing offense in a way it wasn't during the frenzy. During the 2021 frenzy, builders were selling at full price with wait lists and no concessions. As of mid-2025, roughly 6 in 10 national builders were using incentives, including mortgage rate buydowns, and about a third were cutting prices outright, levels we hadn't seen since the market started cooling. Lennar averaged well over $60,000 per home incentives in 2025, compared to roughly $17,000 per home just 3 years earlier. That's close to a 4-fold increase. So what does that look like on the ground? A buyer may be looking at a rate buy down that gets them well below what's available on a resale at the market rate. They may also be getting $10,000 to $15,000 or more in closing cost credits. And on top of that, they may get design studio allowances that make the home feel finished and personalized before they even move in. Smith Douglas Homes, one of Georgia's most active builders, had a promotional rate near 5% on select Georgia quick move-in homes as recently as May 2026. D.R. Horton ran a buy-down rate offer in late 2025 that was saving buyers close to $1,000 a month in year one alone. Per NAHB's 2026 analysis, the price gap between new construction and existing homes has narrowed to historically low levels. And when builder incentives are layered on top of near parity pricing, the effective monthly payment on a new home can be hundreds of dollars lower per month than a comparable resale at the full market rate. Build times are the other piece of this. During the 2021 and 2022 supply chain delays, buyers sometimes waited 12 to 18 months for a new home to be completed. That uncertainty pushed a lot of people toward resale, even when they would have preferred new construction. Now, those delays have normalized and builders have worked through the backlogs. Metro Atlanta saw tens of thousands of new residential construction permits in 2025, and a significant portion of those are completed or near complete homes available now, with incentives attached and a predictable timeline. That removed one of resale's biggest natural advantages. Resale homes still have real strengths: established neighborhoods, mature trees and landscaping, character and location. But those strengths have to be paired with honest pricing and a willingness to compete on the monthly payment equation, not just the sticker price. The sellers who understand what's across the table are still moving their homes. The ones who don't are the ones sitting and wondering why. The rules have changed, and the gap between the people who adjusted and the people who didn't now shows up in time and money. If you're buying or selling in Atlanta right now and want to know where you stand in this market, email me at hello@vcgrealty.com today. I'll give you a clear picture of what to expect and how to position yourself for it. And I've linked a video here that takes the split one step further because the attached versus detached divide in Atlanta is sharper than the headlines make it seem. So if you're a buyer or seller and you haven't looked at your strategy through that lens yet, that video is worth your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.